Well, thank you very much for having me today, and a great video that's just been profiled with the data really as the underpinning theme. Certainly, that's where we ended up. So, I want to talk about, as you say, the trends that we see in healthcare, but let's just go into a bit of a backdrop. The last 12 months have seen a step change in how healthcare is delivered. We've seen rapid acceptance and thus adoption by physicians and patients alike of technologies really to support virtual care. This has never happened before at a pace and such a universal scale. I do believe, though, having had a taste of virtual care, we will in the future all want to demand additional integrated services that provide a more personalised and convenient health experience. Digital platforms such as Netflix and Amazon now dominate the entertainment market for a reason. They've improved the home media experience, making it efficient, convenient, and personal. Not only is a vast array of content easy to access, but it's highly relevant too, based on viewers' preferences and behaviours. In addition, the platforms often proactively identify new material of interest before individuals actually realise they want to watch it. Beyond entertainment, this type of customization is now possible in everyday consumer activities such as banking, retail, travel. In these other industries, the ability to use data is key to creating this enhanced experience. Linking together technologies as diverse as genomics, miniaturized sensors, either inside us or on us, 5G, blockchain, AI, can now allow medical and real world data, both clinical and non clinical, to be gathered, shared, and used to make health decisions. This will give companies the opportunity to make care more connected, customized, and convenient. But COVID too has accelerated the move towards care delivery outside of the four walls of the traditional health system. I do believe, though, to make a real and permanent change in how care is delivered, companies must address the new demands that are rapidly coming from patients and care providers. Meeting these increased expectations will mean expanding the traditional definition of innovation, which historically has focused, if you break it back, on the safety, effectiveness of products, drugs, or the efficiency and efficaciousness of care. Of course, these remain important, but patients and providers alike now demand a more seamless health experience delivered where and when it is wanted. So I do believe companies have an opportunity to seize this inflection point because the reality, as we've seen with other industries, is that products and services alone, no matter how strong technically, will not be enough for us in the future. So really welcome, I believe we're at an inflection point, welcome to the age of health experience. It's not only health providers and payers who are now focusing on health experience. Some biopharmers already understand they have to go beyond selling products to engaging with the patient, understanding the patient's journey and delivering to them not just better care, but a better care experience. We've not seen these before. So some examples just selected recently. A major biopharma is now using a patient platform to manage chronic disease, for example, in respiratory, cardio, and renal areas. All their patients in the future will take home two prescriptions from the clinician, one for the medicine and the other for the platform that lets the patient and the clinician monitor how the patient is coping after they've been discharged and to change the care plan when needed. Another biopharma we see is streamlining clinical trials to make them easier to participate in, both for patients and clinicians. One of their new trials in the lung cancer area is using liquid biopsies and remote monitoring to capture many different data streams from the patient without them having to undergo regular invasive tests in the hospital. The company is pulling together these data to try and understand the patient's journey and build a highly personalised treatment plan to improve it. Another good example on skills partnering is the teaming of a drug company with a sensor specialist so that patients who are given a heart failure treatment are also given a sensor which measures 22 biometrics in real time to constantly monitor their condition after their treatment. Another example, a company that's leading the way in COVID testing in the US, and I think this is really interesting, used to think of themselves as a diagnostic company. But now they think of themselves very much as an infrastructure company. They've realized that their value in their offer is actually the scalable and flexible infrastructure, access reaching patients wherever they are in schools and workplaces, as well as in hospitals and clinics, versus the actual test. And I think that's a really, really interesting example and that demonstrates how value in the whole healthcare delivery chain is shifting. So, as more companies increasingly take responsibility for improving the health experience, they'll also have the opportunity to build richer and more meaningful relationships in the value chain. And these relationships will no doubt strengthen customer loyalties and at the same time build trust. So, wrapping this all together, to be leading in the future, we urge companies to closely examine 5 trends and really challenge their strategic focus and the deployment of their human and financial capital and effort. So, firstly, and we heard that actually earlier on today, put humans at the centre of healthcare and deliver patients integrated solutions of products, services, and data that can give them the best personalised outcomes, the experience. The health infrastructure has to change to start revolving around the patient at the centre rather than the patient and us as consumers having to navigate a static and largely disparate physical based system. Secondly, we need to partner to build transparent, integrated, and resilient supply chains that can support these personalised new care models. With the demands of home care, even therapies such as complex oncology treatments, we now see as being considered to be delivered in the home. Thirdly, we need to define and measure value by combining clinical and non clinical data to measure and drive improved health outcomes. The combination of non-clinical, and I emphasize this, non-clinical and clinical data will make a huge difference in how we can evaluate value and endpoints and ultimately price points for all part of the value chain. Make the data super fluid. We heard a little bit about that in the video. That is, make it possible to share data easily and securely across different organizations, with value creation linked to data insights via use and access, not proprietary data ownership. And I think that's going to be fundamental. Data ownership arguably is a cost with its upkeep and security, etc. But what you really need as a company participating in the ecosystem of today is the ability to interrogate either your own data or with appropriate access somebody else's data, because the value is generated by the insights resulting from asking the right targeted questions of such data. And then finally, commit to sustainable practices. We heard a little bit about sustainable practices earlier today, but not only sustainable practices, but measuring the long-term value these activities deliver. I do believe investors will increasingly demand this commitment to measuring the impact created and scrutinising companies' behaviour more closely in the future than ever before. And the measurable impact from these sustainable practices will also come with a dependency, I think, to be able to access capital markets. So next month, we'll be launching a paper that explores these 5 trends in a bit more detail in the context of 4 different business models. Each of those business models comes with a different strategic intent and thus operating model implication to their optimization. Companies need to identify the business model that can best deliver them a competitive advantage in the future. But a key aspect of this challenge is to identify who their real customer is. And I think that's quite opaque today and arguably increasingly confused. Current regulatory environments, of course, prohibit direct-to-consumer marketing in many countries. But as patients and us as consumers become more influential in their care experience, I do believe, notwithstanding the regulatory environment, they will play a greater role in the future. In some cases, care providers in the health system or commercial payers and governments will be the most relevant customer. In other cases and other business models, high net worth individuals will be the primary buyer, or indeed the mass market. Each of these buyers, they will have different needs and will want ultimately different experiences. And to capture value from these different customers, companies must therefore build products, services, and solutions that target very specifically those demands. And because I think the capital required to add capabilities, it'll be increasingly expensive and complex for companies to play in multiple business models. So I'll end on an overarching equation that I'm challenging various different companies at the moment. Where really is the future value that your company is delivering? And I do believe that future value is going to be all about unlocking the power of data to deliver a health experience. And I define the unlocking the power of data by connecting and combining data sets and sharing insights so back into the wider ecosystem, and health experience being measured by the degree of personalisation of the health outcome and sustainable income. But really, it's all about experience. And I think, what COVID has actually taught us is that virtual care and the adoption of technologies at scale en masse is achievable. And as we want more of it, the experience of how we get our healthcare will become ever more important.